Hello, everyone. I'm Géraldine Amiel. I'm the Paris bureau chief for Bloomberg News, and I'm very fortunate to be part of this series of conversation. And with me today is Jean-Pierre Clamadieu, the chairman of ENGIE. And this is actually a very good time to discuss with Monsieur Clamadieu. Why? Well, because the company is at the forefront of the fight for the environment, somehow, amongst others, of course. And it's also a very good time for me to ask him about, the company after the health crisis, or while we're still within somehow the health crisis. So, Monsieur Clamadieu, welcome.
Hello,
I'm
nice to meet
I'm
you.
very glad to have you. So, tell us what happened with ENGIE during the health crisis, and what's the impact for your company?
Well, in fact, when the crisis developed, and we all remember it developed very quickly, we set three very simple priorities. The first one is really the health and safety of our own people. The company employs 170,000 people around the world, and we decided to take, like other companies, a lot of measures to make sure that they would be safe. Probably the most visible, impactful one was about home office. In less than 48 hours, we put 50,000 people in home office. I was impressed because it worked indeed very well, and thanks to the dedication of our people, but also thanks to the technical means that we've used, we've been able to continue to operate in this very, very new concept. We had also to take care of people in the field. Also there it was the same issues also as a lot of companies fighting to find masks, making sure that we would adapt protocol to allow our people to work safely. Second priority, continuity of service. We supply a lot of people, a lot of installations which are critical with critical inputs, gas, electricity, in some cases heat, air conditioning, air control. We are a large distributor of gas in France and Belgium, but we also support hospitals, which were obviously very critical. And I was very pleased to see that we've not seen any significant disruption in all the geographies, in all these different activities, which are kind of public service activities. We've been able to secure continuity of supply. And this is very important because this is really the DNA of ENGIE. ENGIE is the former Gaz de France. I mean, we have this culture of serving the public, serving critical infrastructure, and it was very well put at play during this period. And third priority, I would say financial, making sure that the company had the liquidity we needed to operate. Today it's kind of obvious, but I can tell you that in the first few days after the confinement in Europe, there was this question on how financial market would react. Would the market be closed or not? In fact, we were the first European company to tap the debt market. We were able to issue in very good condition a pretty large bond in the few days after the confinement. So we have secured liquidity, and we are now making sure that we can optimize the impact. There will be an impact of this crisis, but making sure that the impact is as small as possible on our various stakeholders.
So when we prepared for this conversation, we sort of mentioned that there was somehow a wake-up call out of this health crisis for ENGIE. What is exactly the lesson that the company has drawn from it?
For me, I mean, and I guess for the most of the managers at ENGIE, we've seen two things. One, probably on the negative one, showing the possibilities. First thing is really the fragility of our global system, global environment, societies. Again, in a very unexpected ways, in less than a month, half of the humanity was put under lockdown. And we've seen a huge impact on our economic activities. So I think it's a demonstration that we are indeed vulnerable, we are indeed fragile. And for a company like ENGIE, who has been very active in another challenge that we are currently tackling, which is climate change, it's a wake-up call. It shows that indeed, if we don't organize ourselves, and this is, when I say we, it's really the global environment, the global activities, the global stakeholders. If we don't organize ourselves to reduce the impact of the climate change, if we don't organize ourselves to mitigate the impact of climate change, it could be a huge catastrophe. The big difference between sanitary crisis and climate change is that the time constant is very different. Climate change comes reasonably slowly compared to the health crisis, but the impact could be incredibly stronger. So first element of a wake-up call. Second lesson to be learned, which is probably positive, is what I was mentioning. We were able, in a few days, to take breakthrough decisions to change the way we operate. Under the pressure of circumstances and under the pressure of some government or public decisions, but it shows that indeed we can work differently, we can operate differently, and this, I think, gives us ideas, and it should give us also ambition on what we can do to tackle this next crisis, which is about climate change.
Well, that's actually very interesting because it leads me to my next question. You're an energy production company, an energy services company. Just mentioned, how the health crisis has sort of been a wake-up call and shows us that we have another crisis brewing and we need to fight for the environment. So how does ENGIE fit into this situation? What can you do? How can you be part of the fight to protect the environment?
This is really something we've been working on for quite some years at ENGIE. As you say, we are a utility. We are producing electricity from renewable, from thermal sources. We are also a large player in natural gas transportation and distribution. But we have decided some years ago not to be just a company producing and selling energy, but also a company who can support its customers in using less energy and using energy better, energy efficiency. And we've developed quite a significant position, quite a significant number of activities where we support our customers, individual companies, local governments, to make sure that we optimize the use of energy. And this is really this is a breakthrough for an energy company. We are not aiming at growing. We are aiming at making sure that energy is used efficiently. So this is something we've done in the past few years. How do I feel today after having made this comment about the need to step up our efforts? I think we will see in a number of countries around the world, number of regions like Europe, we will see a number of public investment funding to support the economic recovery. And I think it's very important that we take advantage of the significant amount of money which will be spent in this to achieve this goal of speeding up economic recovery. It's very important that we use it also to tackle this energy and climate crisis. So I've spent some time discussing with various authorities, various officials here in Paris, in other European countries, in Brussels with the EU teams, to make sure that indeed these recovery plans are green recovery plans. And we are seeing a number of signs that this is taking shape and form. If we listen to what the President of the European Commission has said about the Green Deal being really the basis for these recovery plans, if we listen to what has been said in France, for example, but also in Germany, we see the willingness of government to align recovery and transformation to make sure that we could tackle this climate crisis. And then ENGIE comes with a number of very specific ideas and proposals. And just to mention a few, I think there's still a big challenge regarding the improvement of the buildings where we live or where we work. I think energy efficiency in building is in Europe and probably in a number of places around the world, an area where there's a lot to do to improve the energy efficiency. And what's good is that in most cases, these investments are investments with payback, because your energy bill will be reduced and then you can pay for the investment. The difficulty is that a number of people who have to make these decisions are not used to the concept of payback. So it's why we need strong public support to achieve that. We think that there's a lot to do in large, what I would call tertiary organization. I'm thinking of universities, large hospitals, airports, to improve their overall efficiency. We've been doing some pilot project at ENGIE in the US with very large universities. We think that this type of concept can be used in other parts of the world, and especially in Europe. We think third, but there's a lot to do to improve the infrastructure of the cities regarding energy efficiency, developing district cooling in areas where air conditioning is important, which is district cooling is a way to improve very significantly the efficiency of air conditioning, developing district heating, developing the infrastructure for electric vehicle charging, and I can multiply the example, efficient lighting. And these are investment projects where ENGIE can bring a solution. And the last part is about gas. I mentioned that ENGIE is a large player in the field of gas. So yes, you're nodding, saying, but gas today is it's coming from it's a fossil resource. Yes, today, but there's a lot to do to bring green gases into our systems. Two different approach. One is biogas, using renewable raw material, using waste to produce energy in the form of gas. This is something which exists today. I mean, we have already several gigawatts of production of gas in France using this type of concept, the concept of biogas. And tomorrow it's hydrogen. And I'm a strong believer in the fact that hydrogen could change the energy system in a number of countries. It requires some investment in infrastructure. It requires still some research efforts. But I think this is probably now the time to step up our efforts.
So are you ready to make these investments as soon as now, even though we mentioned that, initially the first stages of the crisis were about like making sure we had enough liquidities and such like that. So do you have the money for such investments?
Yes, I mean, on biogas, we have already taken a commitment to spend several hundreds of millions to support biogas project development in France, and we are certainly ready to step up our efforts. We'll need some kind of public support. As always, when you think of renewable energies, the first few years needs to be supported by public money, but will come very quickly at a level of cost parity, which will allow the further development of this concept to be done without public support. By the way, the fact that the price of fossil energy these days is very low should be seen as an opportunity, not a challenge, but an opportunity to reinvest and prepare for these green gases. And on hydrogen, I'm very confident that it's really time now to step up. We've done a lot of demonstration here and there. We know how to run buses on hydrogen. We know how to run railway systems on hydrogen. Now we need to make sure that hydrogen becomes part of the European energy system. What's great about hydrogen is that hydrogen could link the gas system and the electricity system, because you can produce hydrogen out of electricity, but thanks to a fuel cell, you can transform hydrogen back into electricity. And gas has something which is very unique. It's very easy to store. And not only to store, but also to destock. A cold day of winter in France, there's more energy coming from our natural gas storage than from all the nuclear power plant that our friends at EDF are running. And this ability to store large quantities of gas makes it very unique when you want to balance energy system. But we need to make gas greener, and this is something where ENGIE is indeed willing to invest with the support of our governments here in Europe.
Okay. Last question. This is a very interesting concept, but as you've mentioned, ENGIE seems very committed and everything, but ENGIE now has a purpose. So it's a concept. It's new. Can you please explain exactly what it means for ENGIE?
Well, yes. In fact, we say raison d'être in French, but we are among the few companies who have decided at the last shareholder meeting to include our raison d'être, our purpose, in our bylaw. And our purpose is very simple. And we want to be a strong leader supporting the transformation of our customers in relation with the energy and climate transition. We want to help our customers develop and implement their zero carbon transition plan. And the fact that we put that in our bylaws makes it indeed an absolute priority. It comes even above our strategy. Our strategy is a way to achieve our purpose, and the purpose is written in a way which allows to bring together the various stakeholders of the company. In Europe, we are it's very important for us not to think only of shareholders, but stakeholders. And stakeholders are obviously shareholders, but it's also our customers, it's our suppliers, it's obviously our own teams. And having set a very clear purpose, fully aligned with the need for climate and energy transition, I think we have developed at ENGIE quite a strong tool to make sure that we can align our efforts and our resources and our people to contribute to what I think is really an absolute key priority for the planet.
Okay, just allow me one very last question. Are you concerned for the rest of this year? What would prevent you from sleeping?
No, I think we are in a bit of a strange situation as we speak, because the first part of the health crisis is behind us. So suddenly everything looks much nicer. I mean, if you
at least in Europe.
Along, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. At least in Europe, if you walk in the streets of Paris, you see people happy to be outside again. And we have not seen yet the economic crisis fully developing. In Europe, we had a lot of systems supporting employment during the crisis, a lot of systems trying to cushion companies from the direct impact of the crisis. The impact of this system will start to reduce, and we think that September, October might be challenging. And if we see the health concerns coming back at this period, it could create indeed a challenging time. So the answer for us is very simple, and let's focus with our team on our customers. Let's make sure that we can manage as best as we can. I think we've learned a lot in the past few months, so let's put this knowledge at work to make sure that we can anticipate and limit the impact of the challenges that we see coming in the next few months.
Et voilà. Jean-Pierre Clamadieu, Chairman of ENGIE, thank you very, very much for your time with us.
Merci beaucoup, Géraldine. Thank you.